think I'm just going to call this one Courage. I didn't realize this until I was just like today talking with the AI on Google. Um, you see, when Danielle McGinnis set all this shit in motion, he literally said at Papa John's, "You're going to be an expert on fear by the time this stupid fucking plan." But I got a question, just kind of a common sense question. Why do I need to be an expert on fear? What about learning about the amygdala or any of the facets of just knowing how fear works enables you to overcome or move through fear? I get that fear is a perception, but nothing about recognizing that 90% of fear is an illusion, or the fact that fear is not real stops my nervous system from freaking the fuck out. And according to the I don't just have normal PTSD, because apparently I can't do anything normal. I have an ADHD, think about this. I have an ADHD brain that overreacts to emotional stimuli. That means I feel my emotions way too deeply. The ADHD brain doesn't react in certain situations with fear. Example, having a gun put in my face doesn't intimidate me. I don't know why, but it doesn't. The fear response doesn't work the same way in the ADHD brain, as stated. The amygdala doesn't even work the same way, but more importantly is my PTSD isn't just normal PTSD, it's what's called neurological, like neurotoxic PTSD. It's a very complicated fucking symptom from heavy metal poisoning. And when I was talking to the AI, it was explaining that it explains why I don't just have like I'm gonna go do this and then I seize up and freeze and can't function. The reason I can't move through that, the reason I had to go take a cold plunge, is because my nervous system doesn't have the bandwidth from being destroyed with heavy metals, but also it altered my brain in the process. I'm pretty sure if I got a brain scan, I could probably prove 90% of the shit I'm talking about. But most people would watch this video and go, excuses, excuses, move through fear, it doesn't matter how powerful it is. But let's roll this back to the real difference between me and Blondie. Courage is a muscle. It's a muscle that needs to be flexed. It's a muscle that needs to develop. Now, according to a Sound of Freedom man from this church, the first time he did something courageous when he was 6 years old, and the church used him to seduce a pedophile, and then he killed him by poisoning him with aluminum phosphide. Yeah. Pretty early age for developing the courage muscle, but developing courage nonetheless. Okay. Blondie literally killed Carolina Herrera. That takes a lot of bravery to go murder somebody. It takes a lot of bravery to do this disgusting thing they do after murdering people, which is knock out their teeth and cut their hair and turn them into hair and teeth bracelets, which is something they do at this church. It's how they enslave your soul. And apparently it doesn't even matter if you have veneers, according to Blondie. Teeth are teeth. So they have courageous act after courageous act, to get the amygdala, because every time you do something the amygdala doesn't want you to do because it's scared or it doesn't trust the situation. The amygdala learns to trust you, that you're capable of handling this thing. It originally previously was programmed to believe you could not handle it. This is where subconscious sabotage comes from. Okay, your amygdala will subconsciously sabotage you from becoming anything greater, because it simply believes you can't do it. And it believes that because you lack courage. Now, the courage is a neuroplastic thing. It develops over time over acts of courage or doing things you wouldn't normally do. Every time you make yourself do something you don't want to do, the amygdala doesn't want you to do, it changes it. Okay. Specifically, the cold plunge I did to eliminate my fear response because I ran out of CBD is a great example of this etymology, I guess. I don't know what you'd call it. So, I don't like coldness. I really don't. Because I was poisoned with heavy metals for such an extended period, I actually lost the ability to regulate my body temperature, and the only way I could actually stop from being freezing and shivering was by taking a hot bath. I literally had to take a hot bath like a lizard or something to change my body temperature. That's how much heavy metal was in my body at one point. Skip that, and I take a cold plunge, and then suddenly I have a flashback to the Oats religion, and what they did at Ackworth Elementary. But the that's not the point about what I'm talking about. Like flashbacks, all that other shit. Um, Courage is developed over time. You don't just go do an act of courage in an extreme situation. Okay. And I wanted to talk about briefly, even what they call integrity. Part of my integrity is not punching people. And the cinema guys can say what they want, but part of my integrity is not punching people. So I would argue this entire time I've been acting within my values, whether they like it or not. Um, and you guys got a problem with that? Yeah, I have a problem with it too. I really wished I was smarter. I wished I could have figured out pro se. I really wish that stupid people didn't have power and weren't in control of this situation and everything was handled like an adult would have handled it. I really do. But everybody handled it like a child would handle it, and that's why everything went bad. That's what happens when you handle things through being stupid. Uh, and the word for it is being stupid. Um, but on the subject of developing courage, like, even, like, and I guess another example of things I may or may not have done, which I'm not going to confess to, is when I went and broke the window. Like, that was courage. That took a lot of courage to do. But I didn't feel elation afterwards. I fell into depression. And one of the times I punched a kid trying to establish a barrier was in elementary school. This isn't a joke. This kid was being a prick, and I decked him. And I felt bad. Didn't feel elation. I felt bad. And maybe, like, I remember the Carl Jung, there's a psychopathic need for killing in everybody. Uh, I, for the longest time of my life, didn't have that. And I know Blondie doesn't believe it. I know nobody in this church believes it, but I literally didn't have that until these people pissed me off enough to give me that. And I experienced some of the worst things you could do to a person growing up. Okay. But I never, ever thought in my life like there was disgusting people as this church, and they were as disgusting as this church. Um, so yeah, stealing things like minor Lego sets. If you're terrified to steal something, I'm not telling you to go steal something, but if you want to develop courage, try stealing something. Spray painting, graffiti. If you want to develop courage and the amygdala tells you whatever you do, don't spray paint, spray paint. Do it anyways. Because that helps the amygdala develop. Courage develop. And this is what Blondie should have programmed me with instead of all the shit I know about how fear works. Because the only thing that I learned about how fear works is it fucking terrifies me that there's a part of your brain that just overrides your intelligence and wants to behave like a fucking idiot. Okay. But there is a part of your brain through courage that overrides that. Welcome to Human Anatomy. When I think about some of my biggest feats of courage, one, Stu holding me up at gunpoint and me telling him I'm not going with you. Him holding me up at gunpoint again in my car. At this point, I was getting tired of it because Officer Fred did it and Stu's brother did it. Okay, so I'd been held up at gunpoint 3 or 4 times by these people and it didn't fucking work, and they just kept doing it. And that doesn't include another officer that held me up at gunpoint in Woodstock. Yeah, another officer. Didn't fucking work. Okay. Now, you go, that's pretty brave, Bob. Yeah, that is pretty brave. I agree with that. When I was in Ackworth, they were building the underpass, and when they were constructing that, I actually climbed across that underpass when it was an incomplete bridge. It was nothing but cement and steel, and it was absolutely terrifying. The entire time I was moving across it, I was shaking like a leaf. I was shaking like I used to get pain in my arms whenever I got really scared. It was a severe pain and it burned. It was very painful. And it was kind of funny because as I was going across the bridge, I remember telling myself, gee, I wish my fear response didn't act this way. I kind of need my hands to hold on to the steel wire that's like the only thing stopping me from falling to my death, but my body was still locking up. You get it. You get the feeling in your knees and your back, the absolute feeling of terror. I've never felt elation from that. It was just terrifying, and I moved through it. I did. Another time, I guess like practicing courage is I was absolutely afraid to go into the woods at night alone in the dark. So one night, to face those fears, I got up at about 2 in the morning, went outside, walked into the woods in pitch blackness. No joke. Didn't even know where I was going. Couldn't see a damn thing. Probably not the best adventure of my life, but still something to do to develop courage. I would argue probably joining a martial arts class and then doing one of those sparring things where you fist fight somebody pseudo-like would probably also help a person develop courage. It definitely would reduce the temerity of a person, the timidness, assuming they're not poisoned with aluminum like I was. These are all important things for developing courage, but asking somebody to go, like, this test they gave me, the whole call in a bomb threat and then punch an officer, like, that is the equivalence of, if I had to make a metaphor, like, I guess being a big eater and then being like, instead of like even eating a Thanksgiving meal by yourself, just sitting down and being like, I'm gonna do a mukbang of a 9-pound steak. Like, you're gonna fail. That's what's gonna happen because you didn't train for it, you dumbass. Okay. Once again, this situation is extremely unfair to me, but what also is unfair is the fact that Blondie programmed me to understand fear. And his entire logic was once you understood fear, it would become a fuel, and it would power you, and fear, and fear, and fear, and fear. And that's why benzodiazepam is so popular with these people, because they themselves don't like constantly being in fear. They don't like constantly being in the amygdala. One of the church leaders, I remember him telling me he can't turn off. That's because he's trapped in the amygdala because he destroyed his halo brain. There isn't anything else but his amygdala to control everything. And that's an unfortunate state to be in. But all that to live in the subconscious mind and bring what these people, the Carl Jung thing, once you make the unconscious conscious, like, you will call it fate or whatever, they don't bring the unconscious mind to the consciousness. What they do is they get rid of the consciousness and then just live in the unconscious mind. They are the unconscious majority. But they're also weird because they're consciously unconscious, which is fucking why they don't have agency. That's why Blondie doesn't have agency. Or understanding of right and wrong or any of those things. It's not there. And you can't make it be there. This is another thing I figured out late in this game that I wish I would have found out sooner, but once again, with the Cho line being emotionally dysregulated, the borderline personality, the mood swings, all the shifts and shit, dude, this would have just been another thing on top of the stack of shit I would have had to figure out. It would have been another thing on top of the stack of shit I would have had to figure out. And I don't know why Blondie wanted me to learn more about the amygdala and the fear brain than he did want me to learn about courage, because courage is way more important. This is the thing, whenever I looked into my courage side, it was like the page wasn't there. And that's because the neuroplastic link for courage wasn't there. That was gone. Um, I've done many courageous things in my life, and I can count them, but I don't know if that actually helps me develop the courage muscle or if it's just a recognition that I can be courageous. Okay? Um, the issue is each time you avoid something, each time you step away from something, that reinforces fear. But there's not a whole lot of things that reinforce being courageous. Um, I remember talking to a guy, and I guess this is an example of how courage works. He was one of those dudes that cleaned windows on the sides of like giant skyscrapers, and he was on one of those things that swayed back and forth while he cleaned the window, and that looked absolutely terrifying to me. Um, for the longest time growing up, I was one of those people when I looked over the edge of something, I would seize up because I would get terrified of heights. And then I just sat with it. I went up and stared out over the edge, and my body eventually became accustomed to it, and that's exactly how he explained his job. He said the first time he went out, he shit himself, and the other guy just stayed away from him because he shit himself. Because he was that terrified when he was on the thing, because the thing was already swaying, and he was like, we're good, we're good. And then it rocked and made a loud noise, and he shit himself. I was really happy that he was willing to share such a humiliating story with me. But he said after a while of doing it, you develop the courage to do it. I guess another story is I talked to these World War II guys, and they were talking about bullets whizzing past your head, and how the first time you do it, you figure out there's a human ability to pull your head inside your body like a fucking turtle. A bullet whizzes past your head, and you just freak out. But then he's like, you have guys that've been on the battlefield for the past 4 days. Bullets are whizzing past their heads, grazing their helmets, and even occasionally even touching their face. And he was like, they're just casually talking to you as bullets are whizzing past their head. Like, talk about courage. How many people do you know that have that level of courage? I kind of wish there was some place to go, like a fear factor, where you could go develop courage. I think it would be a real handy skill for most people. Not saying courage and confidence are two totally separate things. Or maybe not. Maybe they could be linked, but I believe they're two totally separate things. I regret that I wasted a large amount of my time learning about the amygdala and the fear brain and how these people just control you through fear and fear and fear. Because what I really needed to learn about was courage and how fear extinction worked and all that science. Because then I probably could have started early on developing more courage in order to do the courageous act which I needed to do. Yeah. Yeah, so acting in integrity, I don't punch people. I just find it to be a part of my integrity. And to these people, I'm a weak person. But I'm not here to impress a bunch of bastards from a church that cheat at everything. Okay? You can say what you want, but personally, I believe when it comes to integrity, not cheating is a very big part of having integrity. So you guys can say you have integrity. I'm not going to believe you. Yeah.